Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Patrick Stewart. Sir Patrick Stewart is an English actor whose career has included roles on stage, television, and film in a career spanning almost 6 decades. He is a multiple-time Olivier Golden Globe, Emmy, Screen Actors Guild and Saturn Award nominee. Beginning his career with a long run with the Royal Shakespeare Company, Stewart received the 1979 Laurence Olivier Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for his performance in Antony and Cleopatra on the West End. Stewart's first major screen roles were in BBC broadcast television and film during the mid-late 1970s, including Hedda and the Claudius miniseries. In the 1980s, Stewart began working in American television and film, with roles such as Captain Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek: The Next Generation, and its successor films as Professor Charles Xavier in the X-Men series of superhero movies, the lead of the Starz TV series Blunt Talk, and voice roles such as CIA Deputy Director Avery Bullock in American Dad, and the poo emoji in the Emoji Movie, having remained with the Royal Shakespeare Company. In 2008, Stewart played King Claudius in Hamlet on the West End and won a second Olivier Award. In 1993, TV Guide named Stewart the best dramatic television actor of the 1980s. He received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on 16 December 1996. In 2010, Stewart was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II for services to drama. Early life. Patrick Stewart was born on 13 July 1940 in Mirfield in the West Riding of Yorkshire, England, to Gladys, a weaver and textile worker, and Alfred Stewart, a regimental sergeant major in the British Army. He has 2 older brothers, Geoffrey and Trevor. He was born with no middle name, though used the middle name Hughes professionally for a while in the 1980s. Stewart grew up in a poor household with domestic violence from his father, an experience which later influenced his political and ideological beliefs. He spent much of his childhood in Jarrow. Stewart's father served with the King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry and was Regimental Sergeant Major of the 2nd Battalion Parachute Regiment during the Second World War, having previously worked as a general labourer and as a postman. As a result of his wartime experience during the Dunkirk evacuation, his father suffered from what was then known as combat fatigue. In a 2008 interview, Stewart said, "My father was a very potent individual, a very powerful man who got what he wanted. It was said that when he strode onto the parade ground, birds stopped singing. It was many years before I realized how my father inserted himself into my work. I've grown a moustache." For Macbeth, "My father didn't have one, but when I looked in the mirror just before I went on stage, one saw my father's face staring straight back at me." Stewart attended Crowley's Church of England Junior and Infants School. He attributes his acting career to his English teacher Cecil Dorsmond, who put a copy of Shakespeare in my hand and said, "Now get up on your feet and perform." In 1951, aged 11, having failed the 11+ examination, he entered Mirfield Secondary Modern School, where he continued to study drama. Around the same time, he met the actor Brian Blessed at a Mythamroyd drama course, and the two have been friends ever since. At the age of 15, Stewart left school and increased his participation in local theatre. He gained a job as a newspaper reporter and obituary writer at the Mirfield. But after a year, his employer gave him an ultimatum to choose acting or journalism, and he left the job. His brother tells the story that Stewart had been attending rehearsals during work time and then inventing the stories he reported. Stewart also trained as a boxer. At the age of 18, he lost his hair due to suffering from alopecia areata, an experience he found traumatic, and became more timid. For him, Acting served as a means of self-expression. Both Stewart and his friend Blest later received grants to attend the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. Early acting career, 1966–1987. Following a period with Manchester's Library Theatre, he became a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company in 1966, remaining with them until 1982. He was an associate artist of the company in 1968. He appeared with actors such as Ben Kingsley and Ian Richardson. In January 1967, he made his debut TV appearance on Coronation Street as a fire officer. In 1969, he had a brief TV cameo role as Horatio opposite Ian Richardson's Hamlet, in a performance of the Gravedigger scene as part of Episode 6 of Sir Kenneth Clark's Civilization television series. He made his Broadway debut as Snout in Peter Brook's legendary production of A Midsummer Night's Dream, then moved to the Royal National Theatre in the early 1980s. Over the years, Stewart took roles in many major television series without ever becoming a household name. He appeared as Vladimir Lenin in Fall of Eagles, Sejanus in I, Claudius, Carla in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and Smiley's People, Claudius in a 1980 BBC adaptation of Hamlet. He even took the romantic male lead in the 1975 BBC adaptation of Elizabeth Gaskell's North and South. He also took the lead, playing psychiatric consultant Dr. Edward Roebuck in BBC's Maybury in 1981. Stewart continued to play minor roles in films such as King Leon deGrance in John Boorman's Excalibur, the character Gurney Halleck in David Lynch's film version of Dune, and Dr. Armstrong in Toby Hooper's Life Force. Stewart preferred classical theatre to other genres, asking Doctor Who actress Lalla Ward why she would work in science fiction or on television. In 1987 he nonetheless agreed to work in Hollywood on a revival of an old science fiction television show after Robert H. Justman saw him while attending a literary reading at UCLA. Stewart knew nothing about the original show Star Trek or its iconic status in American culture. He was reluctant to sign the standard contract of 6 years, but did so as he, his agent and others with whom Stewart consulted all believed that the new show would quickly fail and he would return to his London stage career after making some money. While in Hollywood, he briefly took a middle name, Hughes, to differentiate himself from another Patrick Stewart, who was already a member of the Screen Actors Guild. Star Trek: The Next Generation. When Stewart began his role as Captain Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek: The Next Generation, the Los Angeles Times called him an unknown British Shakespearean actor, still living out of his suitcase because of his skepticism that the show would succeed. Stewart was unprepared for the long schedule of television production that began at 4:45 a.m. each day. He initially experienced difficulty fitting in, with his less disciplined castmates saying that his spirits used to sink when required to memorize and recite technobabble. Stewart eventually came to better understand the cultural differences between the stage and television, and his favorite technical line became space-time continuum. He remained close friends with his fellow Star Trek actors and became their advocate with the producers when necessary. Marina Sirtis credited Stewart with at least 50% if not more of the show's success, because others imitated his professionalism and dedication to acting. Stewart unexpectedly became wealthy because of the show's great success. In 1992, during a break in filming, Stewart calculated that he earned more during that break than from 10 weeks of Wolf in London. From 1994 to 2002, he also portrayed Picard in the films Star Trek Generations, Star Trek: First Contact, Star Trek: Insurrection and Star Trek: Nemesis, and in Star Trek: Deep Space Nine's pilot episode, Emissary, and received a 1995 Screen Actors Guild Award nomination for Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Drama Series. When asked in 2011 for the highlight of his career, he chose Star Trek: The Next Generation because it changed everything for me. He has also said he is very proud of his work on Star Trek: The Next Generation for its social message and educational impact on young viewers. When questioned about the significance of his role compared to his distinguished Shakespearean career, Stewart has said that, "The fact is, all of those years in Royal Shakespeare Company playing all those kings, emperors, princes and tragic heroes were nothing but preparation for sitting in the captain's chair of the Enterprise." The accolades Stewart has received include the Readers of TV Guide in 1992 choosing him, with Cindy Crawford, of whom he had never heard, as television's most bodacious man and woman. In an interview with Michael Parkinson, he expressed gratitude for Gene Roddenberry's riposte to a reporter who said surely they would have cured baldness by the 24th century. To which Roddenberry replied, in the 24th century they wouldn't care. X-Men film series. The success of the Star Trek: The Next Generation TV and film franchises typecast Stewart as Picard, and obtaining other roles became difficult. He also found returning to the stage difficult because of his long departure. He commented that he would never have joined The Next Generation had he known that it would air for 7 years. No. And looking back now, it still frightens me a little bit to think that so much of my life was totally devoted to Star Trek and almost nothing else. However, in the late 1990s he accepted a key role in the big-budget X-Men film series as Professor Charles Xavier, founder and mentor of the superhero team, a role similar in many ways to Picard. He was initially reluctant to sign on to another movie franchise, but his interest in working with director Bryan Singer persuaded him. Stewart has played the role in 7 feature films and voiced the role in several video games. Stewart announced that he is leaving the X-Men film franchise after Logan, which will thus be the final time he plays the role. Documentaries. In 2011, Stewart appeared in the feature-length documentary The Captains alongside William Shatner. Shatner also wrote and directed the film. In the film, Shatner interviews actors who have portrayed captains within the Star Trek franchise. The film pays a great deal of attention to Shatner's interviews with Stewart at his home in Oxfordshire, as well as at a Star Trek convention in Las Vegas, Nevada. Stewart reveals the fear and personal failings that came along with his tenure as a Starfleet captain, and also the great triumphs he believes accompanied his role as Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Other film and television. Stewart's other film and television roles include the flamboyantly gay Sterling in the 1995 film Geoffrey, and King Henry II in The Lion in Winter, for which he received a Golden Globe Award nomination for his performance and an Emmy Award nomination for executive producing the film. He portrayed Captain Ahab in the 1998 made-for-television film version of Moby Dick, receiving an Emmy Award nomination and Golden Globe Award nomination for his performance. He also starred as Scrooge in a 1999 television film version of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, receiving a Screen Actors Guild Award nomination for his performance. In late 2003, during the 11th and final season of NBC's Frasier, Stewart appeared on the show as a gay Seattle socialite and opera director who mistakes Frasier for a potential lover. In July 2003, he appeared in Series 2 of Top Gear in the star in a reasonably priced car segment, achieving a time of 1:50 in the Liana. In 2005, He was cast as Professor Ian Hood in an ITV thriller 4-episode series 11th Hour created by Stephen Gallagher. The first episode was broadcast on the 19th of January 2006. He also in 2005 played Captain Nemo in a 2-part adaptation of The Mysterious Island. Stewart also appeared as a nudity-obsessed caricature of himself in Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant's television series Extras. Stage 1990–present. After The Next Generation began, Stewart soon found that he missed acting on the stage. Although he remained associated with the Royal Shakespeare Company, the lengthy filming for the series had prevented him from participating in most other works, leaving a gaping hole of many years in his CV as a Shakespearean actor, causing him to miss opportunities to play such notable roles as Hamlet, Romeo and Richard III. Instead, Stewart began writing one-man shows that he performed in California universities and acting schools. One of these, a version of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol in which he portrayed all 40-plus characters, became ideal for him as an actor as well because of its limited performing schedule. In 1991, Stewart performed it on Broadway, receiving a nomination for that year's Drama Desk Award for Outstanding One-Person Show. He staged encore performances in 1992, 1993, 1994, 1996 again, for the benefit of survivors and victims' families in the 11th of September attacks, and a 23-day run in London's West End in December 2005. For his performances in this play, Stewart has received the Drama Desk Award for Best Solo Performance in 1992, and the Laurence Olivier Award for Best Entertainment for Solo Performance in 1994. He was also the co-producer of the show through the company he set up for the purpose, Camlane Productions, a reference to his birthplace in Camlane, Mirfield. Shakespeare roles during this period included Prospero in Shakespeare's The Tempest on Broadway in 1995, a role he would reprise in Rupert Gould's 2006 production of The Tempest as part of the Royal Shakespeare Company's Complete Works Festival. In 1997 he took the role of Othello with the Shakespeare Theatre Company in a race-bending performance in a photo-negative production of A White Othello with an otherwise all-black cast. Stewart had wanted to play the title role since the age of 14, so he and director Jude Kelly inverted the play so Othello became a comment on a white man entering a black society. He played Antony again opposite Harriet Walter's Cleopatra in Antony and Cleopatra at the Novello Theatre in London in 2007 to excellent reviews. During this period, Stewart also addressed the Durham Union Society on his life in film and theatre. When Stewart began playing Macbeth in the West End in 2007, some said that he was too old for the role. He and the show again received excellent reviews, with one critic calling Stewart one of our finest Shakespearean actors. He was named as the next Cameron Mackintosh Visiting Professor of Contemporary Theatre based at St Catherine's College, Oxford in January 2007. In 2008, Stewart played King Claudius in Hamlet alongside David Tennant. He won the Laurence Olivier Award for Best Supporting Actor for the part. When collecting his award, he dedicated the award in part to Tennant and Tennant's understudy Edward Bennett after Tennant's back injury and subsequent absence from 4 weeks of Hamlet disqualified him from an Olivier nomination. In 2009, Stewart appeared alongside Ian McKellen as the lead duo of Vladimir and Estragon in Waiting for Godot. Stewart had previously appeared only once alongside McKellen on stage, but the pair had developed a close friendship while waiting around on set filming the X-Men films. Stewart stated that performing in this play was the fulfillment of a 50-year ambition, having seen Peter O'Toole appear in it at the Bristol Old Vic while Stewart was just 17. Reviewers stated that his interpretation captured well the balance between humor and despair that characterizes the work. Voice acting. Known for his strong and authoritative voice, Stewart has lent his voice to a number of projects. He has narrated recordings of Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf, Vivaldi's The Four Seasons, C.S. Lewis' The Last Battle, Rick Wakeman's Return to the Center of the Earth, as well as numerous TV programs such as High Spirits with Shirley Ghostman. Stewart provided the narration for 9 Worlds, an astronomical tour of the solar system, and nature documentaries such as The Secret of Life on Earth and Mountain Gorilla. He is also heard as the voice of the Magic Mirror in Disneyland's live show, Snow White, an Enchanting musical. He also was the narrator for the American release of Dragons, a fantasy made real. He is narrator for 2 full-dome video shows produced and distributed by Loch Ness Productions called Mars Quest and The Voyager Encounters. He also was a voice actor on the animated films The Prince of Egypt, Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, Chicken Little, The Page Master, the English dubbings of the Japanese anime films Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind by Hayao Miyazaki and Steam Boy by Katsuhiro Otomo, and the Emoji Movie. He supported his hometown of Dewsbury in West Yorkshire by lending his voice to a series of videos on the town in 1999. He voiced the pig Napoleon in a made-for-TV film adaptation of George Orwell's Animal Farm, and guest-starred in The Simpsons episode Homer the Great as Number 1. Stewart also narrated the prologue and epilogue for Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, which also appears on the film's soundtrack. He plays a recurring role as CIA Deputy Director Avery Bullock, lending his likeness as well as his voice on the animated series American Dad. He has made 9 guest appearances on Family Guy in various roles, first in Peter's Got Woods, second in No Meals on Wheels when Peter likens something to when he once swapped voices with him for a day, third in Lois Kills Stewie as his American Dad character Bullock, fourth in Not All Dogs Go to Heaven as himself, fifth in And Then There Were Fewer as a cat that proclaims himself a professor, sixth in Halloween on Spooner Street as Dick Pump, seventh in A Hand That Rocks the Wheelchair as Susie Swanson, and 8th in the DVD version of It's a Trap, as Captain Picard. He also appears as a guest character in the mobile game Family Guy: The Quest for Stuff's Comic-Con event. To unlock him you need to give him 1,000 Blam drinks, 10 wizard books, and 15 pizza slices before the 8th of September 2014. Stewart also appears as narrator in McFarlane's 2012 film directorial debut Ted. In 2006, Stewart voiced Bambi's father, the Great Prince of the Forest, in Disney's direct-to-video sequel, Bambi 2. He lent his voice to the Activision-produced Star Trek computer games Star Trek Armada, Armada 2, Star Trek, Starfleet Command 3, Star Trek, Invasion Bridge Commander, and Elite Force 2, all reprising his role as Captain Picard. Stewart reprised his role as Picard in Star Trek Legacy for both PC and Xbox 360 along with the 4 other, major, Starfleet captains from the different Star Trek series. In addition to voicing his characters from Star Trek and X-Men in several related computer and video games, Stewart worked as a voice actor on games unrelated to both franchises, such as Castlevania, Lords of Shadow, Forgotten Realms, Demon's Stone, Lands of Lore, The Throne of Chaos, and The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion, for which in 2006 he won a Spike TV Video Game Award for his work as Emperor Uriel Septim. He also lent his voice to several editions of the Compton's interactive encyclopedia. His voice talents also appeared in a number of commercials, including the UK TV adverts for the relaunch of TSB Bank, Domestos Bleach and MoneySupermarket.com, an advertisement for Shell Fuel, and an American advertisement for the prescription drug Crestor. He also voiced the UK and Australian TV advertisements for the PAL version of Final Fantasy XII. Stewart used his voice for Pontiac and Porsche cars and MasterCard Gold commercials in 1996, and Goodyear Assurance tires in 2004. He also did voiceovers for RCA televisions. He provided the voice of Max Winters in TMNT in March 2007. In 2008, he was also the voice of television advertisements for Currys and Stella Artois beer. Currently, he is heard during national car rental television spots. He voiced the narrator of the Electronic Arts computer game The Sims Medieval for the game's introduction cinematic and trailer released on the 22nd of March 2011. He also voiced the story plaques and trailer of the MMOG LEGO Universe. In 2016 he narrated The Connected Universe, a crowd-funded film directed by Malcolm Carter on the ideas of self-styled physicist Nassim Haramein. It was revealed in the second trailer of the video game LEGO Marvel Super Heroes 2 that Stewart will voice the main antagonist Kang the Conqueror. Charity work and activism. In 2006, Stewart made a short video against domestic violence for Amnesty International, in which he recollected his father's physical attacks on his mother, and the effect it had on him as a child. For instance, he said, "The physical harm was a shocking pain. But there are other aspects of violence which have more lasting impact psychologically on family members. It is destructive and tainting. As a child witnessing these events, one cannot simply help somehow feeling responsible for them, for the pain and the screaming and the misery." In the same year he gave his name to a scholarship at the University of Huddersfield, where he is Chancellor, to fund postgraduate study into domestic violence. Stewart's childhood experience also led him to become a patron of Refugee UK charity for abused women. In 2009, Stewart gave a speech at the launch of Created Equal, a book about women's rights, talking again about his personal experiences with domestic violence and the impacts they had on him. He remarked, "Violence is a choice, and it's a choice a man makes. The lasting impact on my mother, and indeed on myself, was extreme. Overcoming the lessons of that male stereotype that I was being shown was a struggle." He now hopes to set an example of what it has been like to be in an environment of such violence, and that it can pass and that one can survive it, and even though sometimes still a struggle. Additionally, in October 2011 he presented a BBC Lifeline appeal on behalf of Refuge, discussing his own experience of domestic violence, and interviewing a woman whose daughter was murdered by her ex-husband. Stewart supports the Armed Forces charity Combat Stress, after learning about his father's post-traumatic stress disorder. When researching his family genealogy for the documentary series Who Do You Think You Are?, he is patron of the United Nations Association UK and delivered a speech at UNO UK's UN Forum 2012 on Saturday 14 July 2012. Speaking of his father's experiences in World War II, and how he believed that the UN was the best legacy of the period. Relationships and children. Stewart and his first wife Sheila Falconer divorced in 1990 after 24 years of marriage. They have 2 children, son Daniel and daughter Sophia. Daniel is a television actor, and has appeared alongside his father in the 1993 made-for-television film Death Train, and the 1992 Star Trek: The Next Generation episode The Inner Light, playing his son. In 1997, Stewart became engaged to Wendy Noyes, one of the producers of Star Trek: The Next Generation. They married on the 25th of August 2000 and divorced 3 years later. 4 months before his divorce from Noyes, Stewart played opposite actress Lisa Dillon in a production of The Master Builder, and the two were romantically involved until 2007. In 2008, Stewart began dating Sunny Ozel, a singer and songwriter based in Brooklyn, New York, whom Stewart met while performing in Macbeth at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. Stewart purchased a home in Park Slope, Brooklyn in August 2012, and subsequently began living there with Ozel. In March 2013, it was reported that Stewart and Ozel were engaged and they married in September 2013. With Sir Ian McKellen performing the wedding ceremony. Beliefs, causes and interests. Stewart's politics are rooted in his belief in fairness and equality. He considers himself a socialist and is a member of the Labour Party. He stated, "My father was a very strong trade unionist, and those fundamental issues of labour were ingrained into me." He has been critical of the Iraq War and UK government legislation in the area of civil liberties, in particular its plans to extend detention without charge to 42 days for terrorist suspects. He signed an open letter of objection to this proposal in March 2008. Stewart is a distinguished supporter of the British Humanist Association. He also identifies himself as a feminist, and has been a part of campaigns against domestic violence. Additionally, he has publicly advocated the right to assisted suicide. In January 2011, Stewart became a patron for dignity in dying and campaigns for an assisted dying law in the UK. In August 2014, Stewart was one of 200 public figures in the UK who were signatories to a letter to The Guardian opposing Scottish independence in the run-up to September's referendum on that issue. On the 2nd of March 2017, Stewart said he was going to apply for US citizenship in order to oppose the Trump presidency. However, in an interview by the Press Association at the British Film Institute Luminous fundraising gala on the 3rd of October 2017, Stewart said that he hoped the US would pass stronger gun laws, but did not mention any intention of becoming an American citizen in furtherance of that hope. Stewart is a lifelong supporter of his local football club Huddersfield Town AFC. He was at Wembley Stadium in 2017 when the club won promotion to the top division for the first time since 1972. Since 2010, he has been president of Huddersfield Town Academy, the club's project for identifying and developing young talent. In an interview with American Theatre, he stated that, "From time to time I have fantasies of becoming a concert pianist. I've been lucky enough through the years to work very closely with a great Emanuel Axe. I've said to him that if I could switch places with anyone, it would be with him." Stewart is also an avid car enthusiast. He is regularly seen at Silverstone during British Grand Prix weekends. He conducted a podium interview with the top 3 finishers in the 2017 Canadian Grand Prix. On a 2003 appearance on Top Gear, he set a lap time of 1 minute 56 on the star in a reasonably priced car feature. He holds an MSA competition license, and competed in the 2012 Silverstone Classic Celebrity Challenge race, finishing 9th. 3 meters 02, 808 behind winner Kelvin Fletcher. During 2012, Stewart met his racing hero Sterling Moss for the BBC Two documentary Racing Legends. Honours. Having lived in Los Angeles for many years, Stewart moved back to England in 2004 in part to return to work in the theatre. In the same year, Stewart was appointed Chancellor of the University of Huddersfield. and subsequently as a professor of performing arts in July 2008. In this role, Stewart regularly attends graduation ceremonies in the UK and Hong Kong and teaches masterclasses for drama students. He stepped down from the chancellorship in July 2015, and was named Chancellor Emeritus in the installation ceremony for his successor Prince Andrew, Duke of York. In August 2016, a building at the university was renamed the Sir Patrick Stewart Building. Stewart was appointed an Officer of the Order of the British Empire in the 2001 New Year Honours list and knighted in the 2010 New Year Honours for services to drama. In July 2011, Stewart received an honorary doctorate of letters from the University of East Anglia, and in July 2014 a D.Litt. From the University of Leeds. In May 2015, Stewart received an honorary doctorate from the Vrije Universiteit Brussels. He is an Emeritus Fellow of St Catherine's College, Oxford. Stewart carried the Olympic torch in July 2012 as part of the official relay for the 2012 London Summer Olympics and stated it was an experience he will never forget, adding that it was better than any movie premiere. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Would you like to know more?